Great to see you here today. My name is Steve Giles, my colleague is Damien Gaskin. We are here from an organisation called Bribery Act Now, and I'd just like to say it is really excellent to be working with Peninsula today on this. So thanks guys for the opportunity to do this. Just one thing to say to you, we are actually recording this session. Nobody will be on that recording because it's actually, God help us all, focusing on me rather than anybody else. But if anybody objects to that, then we'll just move the camera up. So hopefully you're okay with that, and we can proceed. Okay, good. Well, what I'd like to do is take you through the first part of this presentation. I'm looking at the Act. Now, my background is as a forensic accountant. I spent the last 25 years combating financial crime in the UK, continental Europe, and the United States. So what I mean by that? I mean fraud cases, money laundering cases, and of course, bribery and corruption cases. So it's going to be my absolute pleasure for the next 10 minutes or so just to take you briefly through certain aspects of the Bribery Act, and then I'm going to hand over to my colleague who tell you a little bit about Bribery Act Now and what we can maybe do along with Peninsula to help you in this area. Now, I want to start by talking to you about 3 myths that I hear when I work with businesses around the Bribery Act. Myth number 1 is that bribery and corruption is something which happens in other parts of the world. It is not something that can happen in the UK, therefore this Act does not apply to us. Couldn't be further from the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Bribery and corruption happens around the world, in every country, and the UK is no exception. I've got on there the slide, just the background to the slide. You'll see the company BAE Systems Limited. This is perhaps the most notorious allegation of bribery in the UK, an allegation that goes back many years now to the time of Margaret Thatcher and to a very large government arms deal that BAE Systems did with the Saudi Arabian government. And it was always thought that this was a contract that was won on the back of huge bribes. Now I need to tell you 2 things about BAE Systems Limited. First of all, BAE Systems Limited have never admitted and never been found guilty of any bribery. Second thing to tell you is BAE Systems have admitted and have been found guilty of false accounting. Now, why do I tell you this? Well, look, I have been, I'm a forensic accountant, I'm a chartered accountant. I have seen a lot of nominal ledgers in my time, lots of books of accounts, but I've never yet seen a nominal ledger with a bribery and corruption account in it. And this stuff has to be paid. So what we're looking at here is people within the organisation deliberately misdescribing things, maybe as after-sales tax, maybe as commission, when it really is not. So that's myth number 1. Myth number 2 is organisations say to me, we are a very reputable business and bribery is not something that we would ever engage in. You've got to be very careful about this, ladies and gentlemen. The example I've got here is of the largest engineering group in Europe, Siemens, which in the years before this scandal broke were regularly winning awards for their great corporate governance and the terrific way that they treated all of their stakeholders. And yet from 2006 to 2008, this scandal engulfed them. They were found to have used bribery and corruption as standard operating procedure to win business and to retain business in countries around the world. So it's just a word of caution. You may think, I'm sure you are, very reputable businesses, but this area is full of risk. And the third myth that I hear is that, well, my business is very small, maybe you're self-employed, you don't have many people. This is not an act which has any relevance for me. Actually, couldn't be further from the truth. Bribery Act came into force on 1st of July 2011. Since that time, there has only been one conviction under the Bribery Act, and this is the conviction. Individual called Mr. Patel, he was working in the magistrates' courts in London, and he had a little scam going. In return for payments of money, he would make convictions for travel offences, driving offences, disappear from the official database. Now what I want to show you on this slide is the fact that Mr. Patel was convicted of a £500 bribe, and he is currently serving 6 years in jail. So this is something just to be aware of. The Act has major implications for individuals. You can be sentenced, if convicted of course, you can be sentenced to up to 10 years in jail for this offence. And also for corporations, for businesses. There is a new corporate offence which I'm going to come on to right now. So this Act affects everybody in this room. We're all either British citizens or we work for British businesses, therefore we are caught by this Act. And it's a serious piece of legislation and you need to know a little bit about it. So, just to take you through the 4 main sections of the Act. Now, first question for you is, how many of you have read the Bribery Act 2010? Well, I'm not astonished to see that nobody has read the Act. Look, when I work with organisations talking about pieces of legislation, you know, I normally recommend that people read these pieces of legislation if they suffer from one condition. If they suffer from insomnia, I think it is really good for them to look at a piece of legislation. The Companies Act 2006 will send you to sleep so quickly. However, if you did want to read this piece of legislation, it is relatively accessible. And there are 4 sections that you need to know about. As individuals, you need to be aware of Section 1 and Section 2. These are the general bribery offences in both the public and the private sector. Section 1 is active bribery. If I want to develop the Bribery Act business with Peninsula and I start offering or paying amounts of money to my 2 friends at the back there, then I am guilty of the offence of bribery. You will be aware though that bribery is an action that, you know, to be successful, there has to be 2 sides to the transaction. You know, it's one of these things where you know, it takes 2 hands to clap. So of course David and Jason, they will probably turn me down, of course, in which case they aren't guilty of any offence. But if they agree to the payment, to accept the payment, then they will be guilty of the Section 2 offence of passive bribery. Agreeing to receive or soliciting, asking for a bribe. So these are the main offences. And the criteria, I just draw your attention to the criteria in the second bullet point there. It is to induce improper performance. So if you're accepting a gift, maybe a lunch, and it is so big that it is going to affect your performance, then that will be bribery. Third key offence, Section 6 offence. This deals with bribing foreign public officials. So of course, these would include government officials. You probably would never come across them, but they also include a far wider category of individuals. For example, in many countries in Europe, of course, the police are government officials. Many developing countries, the government will own the airports. Therefore, the first people you see when you actually enter a country, they could be government officials. So it's just a piece of general warning. If you are ever in a situation where you deal with government officials, you must be very careful, in particular around issues like gifts and hospitality. So these are the first 3 of our 4 offences. This one is very important. The Section 7 offence, the so-called corporate offence, the failure of a commercial organisation to prevent bribery. Now, what is this all about? This is all about putting the onus on businesses to take part in preventing and deterring bribery that might happen in business generally. Very important, very new. If, for example, you were unlucky enough to have me as one of your employees or as an agent, because it says here associated persons, not just employees, it goes wider than that, then you may have a problem. Because I'm an old-fashioned businessman, you know, I've been around the block, I know how business works. And I'm there to deliver results. And if I need to pay the odd inducement to get the deal done, then I might be willing to do it, despite what you as a business say. Now, if you are in this situation then you do have a problem. Your business has a problem because you will be found guilty of the Section 7 offence. You only have one possible defence. And the defence is to say that actually, even though we had Steve Giles as our employee, we nevertheless had adequate procedures in place which give us reasonable assurance that there is no bribery going on in our business. That's the only defence you've got. So I need to ask you another question now. Have any of you looked at the guidance from the Ministry of Justice around adequate procedures? You really need to read this guidance. This is issued by the Ministry of Justice. But you will see when you do look at the guidance that it is delivered around what they call 6 guiding principles. So the guiding principles are on the slide there, and just as an example, top level commitment. What does this mean? Well, this means that I would expect to see on your website, maybe, certainly somewhere as a key statement, the fact that we as a business have 0 tolerance of bribery. You need to say it. You need to say it. You need to assess your risk as well to bribery. Now, all of this needs to be proportionate. Some of you I know come from smaller organisations, so what do you need to do? Well, I think you need to do 2 things above all else. First of all, it is absolutely necessary that you have policies in this area. And that is what the guys from Peninsula are all about, and they'll be telling you about this in a moment. But this is not going to be sufficient. If you have a policy, you must also demonstrate that your people are aware of what that policy is. But in order to do that, you need to train your people. Really, really important. So necessary to have the policy, not be sufficient under this guidance unless you train your people. And the training is quite interesting under the Bribery Act because it isn't static, one-off training. Of course, training raises awareness. Staff must understand the anti-bribery procedures in your business and their application and actually their own responsibility. Because each of us as individuals is responsible under this Act. However, what is required under this training requirement in the Bribery Act is a little bit additional. First of all training must be evidenced. Secondly, the training needs to be ongoing. So you deliver it once and then you need to do some refresher training going on board. If you were to deliver computer-based training, that training needs to be assessed. It needs to be monitored. You need to be able to demonstrate that your people not only have attended the session, but they actually haven't been completely asleep whilst they've been at that session. So now it's in this area of training that Bribery Act Now has done a lot of work, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Damien, who's going to tell you a little bit more about what we do here. Damien.
Good morning. My name is Damien Gaskin. There are 2 Damien Gaskins if you Google Damien Gaskin. One has an island in Jamaica, and the other is famous for fixing a windscreen wiper on a train. I'm afraid I'm the one with the windscreen wiper. I trained as a lawyer, and then I became an actor, and then a few years ago I had an idea for an IT platform. And with that IT platform background, I bumped into Steve Giles and 2 other people you'll see on video, Charles Kingsmill and Michelle Witten. Michelle's a lawyer, and between the 4 of us we realised we could create a product and a service that we think is very unique, very cost effective and very simple to use, and will make a lot of businesses, I think, be able to relax. So, just a quick overview of the Bribery Act. We called it the product, but actually what I want to get across to you is the service, because whilst Bribery Act Now exists on the cloud as an internet application, face-to-face communication and our dedication and commitment to the client is absolutely foremost. So we'll always be there for people who wish to use this product. It's a series of videos and tests that exist on the cloud that your people can watch on pretty much any device on any network, Wi-Fi, 3G, on any platform, whether it's Android or iOS 6, on your desktop or on your mobile or an iPad. And it's a complete management and administration package, so people your users who actually watch the videos and do the tests, you as a business can see who's done what, when, and it's really simple just to get a report and see, right, I know those people in that office have done this, and I know that John needs to watch module 3. I'd like to tell you a short story. Anyone know anything about landscape gardening? No? Me neither. But this is the work of a landscape gardener called Capability Brand. And I want to tell you a short story about a fictional hotel chain. So this fictional hotel chain, they have 15 locations around the UK. They only have the greatest and best and most wealthy clientele. They don't believe they have employees who will accept bribes. They don't believe they have clients who will give bribes. But one day, in the wing of this hotel overlooking this beautiful view, the guests in that wing, who belonged to a government department at the time on a conference, were asked to move. They were asked to move out, and they discovered that some officials from a previous Russian state petroleum company were now in this wing, where they'd been booked in for several days. And the next day, the manager of this hotel is sporting a very, very expensive £25,000 Cartier watch. And at that point, some questions were asked by the leadership of this hotel chain. But the dilemma that the hotel chain faced was, well, who do we trust to deliver training on the Bribery Act? How can we deliver across 15 locations in a cost-effective manner? We've got a high turnover of sort of the staff who do the sort of catering and the laundry and all that. We've got very experienced staff who work very long shifts. How do we take them off doing what they're really good at doing, which is the customer-facing work, and deliver excellent service and training? When can we do this? If we send a trainer around the UK, it's going to cost us a fortune. And then as soon as he gets back to London, or she gets back to London, well, we've got new staff now in Edinburgh, so what do we do then? How do we know the training on the Bribery Act has actually sunk in? And how do we, back in the head office of this hotel in Mayfair or whatever it is, how do we just rest easy that when the there's a knock at the door, we can go, there's the report of every single person, we've got audit trails to your heart's content. So what Steve and I believe we've got is a solution to this problem for this hotel chain, but also for other businesses, leisure businesses, retail businesses, and that is the Bribery Act Now product. So if the hotel chain were to come to us, what they would say is, can you help us with this work? We'd say yes. Who are your employees? You can update your employees as new ones join. The logins would be created on the Bribery Act Now platform. Bribery Act Now system would then distribute the videos and the tests to all or targeted fixed or mobile devices, anywhere where there was Wi-Fi or 3G or broadband. They get the videos streamed. The videos are sort of 7 or 8 minutes long, and there's only 5 of them, and most people would only have to watch 3 of them. Tests are deployed again to the mobile or fixed devices. Reminders are sent so that if you are, you don't have to think, right, I've got to remind John to do this because he's not done it yet. It'll automatically happen to John. And when they've passed, they can download a certificate, and you know, because you've got a report that they've done the training. In the background, as they're watching videos, all sorts of data is being recorded, such as what device they're using, what IP address they're coming from. We know whether they fast forwarded or not, and then the analytics can be sent back to you. That's sort of, well, that is the interface. As you hopefully see, it's completely clear of any adverts or any nonsense. It's a step-by-step process. If you'll see here, when someone logs in, it says whether they've watched, what to do next to take the test, and then they can, when they've done, in this case, this particular user has to do 3 modules: an overview on the Bribery Act, a module on gifts and entertainment, and a module on facilitation payments. They can then, when they've completed the tests, download a certificate which they can keep, and you know they've got that far as well. And then this is what the test appears like on your mobile device or on your desktop. Straightforward multiple choice questions. And since we're all about video, there's a short 2-minute excerpt. This is Michelle Witten. She's a compliance lawyer. She's written the Bribery Act Now product along with Steve Giles. Charles is also a partner in this, and these two are just going to present something, and you may recognise somebody else in this video.
In this module, we're looking at what the Bribery Act says about gifts and entertainment. Take a look at this.
I'm glad business is going well. When might you be making a decision about Africa?
Well, we won't decide on that until next month. It's a big contract, though. Reckon you can cope with another 3,000 users?
Well, you've coped with everything that you've thrown at us so far. It's only a question of uploading the details to the database.
Well, I'll be in touch on that one.
Yeah, thank you. How's golf?
Oh, great. Yeah, I had a couple of days off playing last week.
Yeah.
Some guys I know from way back.
Okay.
Should be a good laugh.
Here, Paul, a lover of golf, faces a tough decision.
I'm going to the Open, actually. Well, I've not been before.
You don't play?
No, but I did see Tin Cup the other night, which I thought was rather good. I imagine it's one of your favourite films. Kevin Costner and golf.
Be a bit of a waste of a ticket, though, wouldn't it?
I've got two, actually, if you fancy going.
You're kidding me.
No, just as by way of a thank you, I thought you might like to go. What do you say?
How the Act impacts on corporate gifts and hospitality is one of the most controversial areas of the Act.
There was a great deal of concern in the business world that the Act signalled the death of corporate entertainment. In fact, government guidance on the Act makes it clear that this is not the intention. But the Act does raise a number of significant risks around corporate hospitality which need to be managed.
Is that a bribe?
You're kidding me.
No.
No, of course it isn't.
Well, does it not occur to you for a minute that if I accept an invitation, that might sway my thinking over your tender?
No, it was just my way of saying thank you. You're pulling my leg, aren't you?
You are so easy to wind up. Actually, is there room for one more?
Yeah, I'm sure I could arrange that, yeah. Hope you'll see it. It's hopefully very comprehensive and also slightly entertaining at times. I've just got a couple more slides. One is a case study. It's a real case study. It's a company called 3i Infotech. They needed a 21st century solution to train their people. They're Indian-based, an Indian company, but they've got 150 personnel in the UK. They used the Bribery Act Now service to train those people at a time when it was effective for those people and effective for their clients. And it solved how to keep dispersed employees trained and the company compliant. So at this point, I'm going to hand back to Mr. Giles. Thank you very much,
Damien. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that video. I mean, just to be clear on corporate entertaining, because it is a controversial area. Corporate entertainment today, under the Bribery Act, needs to satisfy two tests. First of all, is it business related? And then secondly, is it reasonable and proportionate? And there's no absolute guidance on this yet until we get a court case. But you must remember that any case that goes before a criminal court, the arbiters of what is reasonable will be the 12 good men, women who sit on that jury. So to take Damien's example of the £25,000 watch, that will almost certainly, I would imagine, be deemed to be excessive, would be deemed to be a bribe. The golf is a different matter entirely. And the government has gone out of its way to say that this is not about preventing traditional corporate entertainment, like going to Wimbledon, like going to Formula One, like going to golf, but you need to be careful. Just introduces more risk. And what hopefully we can help you to do is to manage that risk in a very effective way. I mean, some of you actually were laughing at the video, and that pleased me, because I do think that this package is not only comprehensive and informative, but it is entertaining as well. So you and your staff will appreciate it. This is about training people at their convenience. So, anytime, anywhere sort of training, really important. The administration of training is also a key feature, and we do it all for you. So you don't have any of that hassle about having to prove who has done what when, because that, of course, is fundamental to this risk-based system. You'll all be aware of this. 21st century, anything that is risk-based, you need proof, you need evidence, and we will provide this for you. And the final thing to say on this is, you know, in my view, it is tremendous value for money. I mean, we will be charging this out at £10 per training, £10 per employee. So, to me, this is a really excellent way of dealing with your responsibilities under the Bribery Act. You need policies, but you also need some training. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure talking to you this morning. I don't know whether you have any questions. I mean, we'll be here for a short while afterwards, so we can maybe help you with them then, but we've maybe got a couple of minutes if anybody's got any questions under this. Yes, madam.
You were talking about the place, but where's the guideline? When do you draw the line when you're doing hospitality and rights? What's the
Okay, there is, madam, there is no cut-off set down in law as yet. When we have a case, then maybe there will be some greater guidance. What organisations are required to do is set their own signposts. So you will have or should have a gifts and hospitality policy. I'm sure the guys at the back can help you with that. And in that policy, you set out what you think is reasonable. And the sort of figures that I see from even large corporations are now very modest. So expenditure up to £50 or maybe up to £100, and then beyond that it has to be authorised. Very often organisations will have a gifts and hospitality register. Of course, the purpose of a register is that there is transparency. So this is all about demonstrating that you are managing these areas in a proper, proportionate way. And of course, the important thing is that if you have a policy, your people follow the policy, clearly. And in order to do that, they need to understand the implications if they don't for themselves and for your business.
Same as Christmas presents. Most companies give gifts at Christmas. Would that be
Yeah.
a surprise to them, do you think, rather than something actually were
Yeah. Yeah, so you'd need then to look at what sort of gifts were you being sent. Now, traditionally, you might get a diary, you might get a bottle of whiskey, and this, look, I am sure, would not cause a problem. But if you start getting a crate of fine wine, then you know clearly you are starting to move into different areas. And the point is around obligation. Does a gift create an obligation? You know, if I give you a gift, am I expecting something in return? So what a lot of organisations do with gifts, especially this type of gift now, they actually will pool them and they might send them to charity or hold an auction or something like this, just to take away all possible problems in this area. So these areas can be handled. You need to give it some thought, and obviously the training, the policies are going to be there to help you do that. Okay, guys, listen, final slide, and then it'll be back to David. But just to say, you know, thank you enormously for your attention. It's been a great privilege for us to be here and meet you all. I want to wish you all the best of luck, not only around this area of bribery. It's difficult economic times at the moment. I want to wish you all the best of success in business anyway. Thanks very much. Thank you.